were moving half of all of the cocaine smuggled into Europe, which has become one of the world's biggest cocaine markets, estimated at 11.6 billion euros a year. That's about 12.5 billion US dollars. That places this network of drug lords in the highest order on the world stage, a super cartel of insane logistical capability, wealth, and global reach. And now this network has finally collapsed, or so authorities say, under the weight of a concerted international police effort. They call it the Western Balkan Cartel, but really it seems borderless, an aggressive transnational narco network that pushed into the stratosphere by forging alliances with two other players in the trade, one on each side of the Atlantic, the Ndrangheta, a powerful Italian Mafia group, and the Primeiro Comando da Capital, known as the PCC, or in English, the First Capital Command. That's a major league crime group based in Brazil. The Mob reporter here with news of the downfall of several high-value targets, the biggest and baddest, most wanted criminals in Europe, in a 4-year operation, which came with the seizure of 8 tons of cocaine and tens of millions worth of cash and luxury assets. Among the dealings of this network, police say, there was at least one murder a day. Let me tell you about it. The key to the cartel's success was the ability to orchestrate regular shipments of cocaine. We're talking enormous multi-ton loads, moving it from Colombia, Brazil, and Ecuador, across the Atlantic into West Africa, and then redistributing it through handling centers in Europe's major markets, with end-to-end control of cocaine from their safe havens in Turkey and Dubai. And it made them stinking rich, hugely powerful, and very in demand. They made friends in source countries and infiltrated the maritime shipping industry, and when South American producers started churning out an oversupply of cocaine, about 2018, they were perfectly placed to gobble up all they could get their hands on. By overstuffing ships with unprecedented loads of cocaine, they often landed it in West Africa before moving it into Europe like a battering ram. Record tonnage of cocaine flowed in a white tide. Alarm bells about the changing drug trade sounded in 2019 when U.S. Customs and Border Protection found the largest single cocaine load in their history, 18 tons, worth $1.3 billion. It was found in this ship from South America that stopped in Philadelphia on its way to the Netherlands. It was the work of Balkan cartels, and they were just warming up. Working in cells rather than under a strict mafia hierarchy, their geography became so sprawling and their movements so agile they couldn't be tackled by one country alone. What police say was their downfall came in stages, like dominoes falling. One hit after another eroded them from the edges until they finally reached the core. It started here, September 2020, in the Atlantic waters near the Canary Islands off the western coast of Africa. Despite being just 60 miles from Morocco and Western Sahara, this is Spanish territory, and it was Spanish cops that intercepted this Croatian-flagged sailboat. On board they found 3 Croatian men with criminal records for drugs and arms trafficking, and on the boat they were minding 1,000 kilos of cocaine. This interception helped unravel the African route for Europe's cocaine, where megaloads were delivered first to less monitored regions in the south before being broken down and delivered in dribs and drabs into Europe. And authorities say it revealed an immense personality, a global broker able to wrangle all of these moving parts. From South American sources, the Balkan cartel investors, the maritime transportation hubs, the African storage, the Italian mobsters moving it into Europe. Authorities say he had a handle on it all. For police, figuring this part out was the start of big things to come. The next year, European police cracked the encrypted phone system of Sky ECC. That's a Canadian communications firm that made private phones, widely used by drug lords and criminals. Police were able to monitor and map criminal networks by analyzing 1 billion messages. The shadowy outline of the Balkan cartel and their partners suddenly started to get colored in by police across Europe. At that stage, some of its operatives were picked off. 7 arrested in Belgium in 2021, another in Serbia and 1 in Peru. In March 2022, Spanish police were watching a Polish-flagged sailboat based in the Canary Islands. An Italian and a Croatian man linked to the boat had ties to two of the biggest global drug trafficking threats, the Balkan Cartel and the Ndrangheta. Sharing the information with Europol, the European Union's police agency, it turned out that investigators in Germany, Belgium, and Serbia were all probing the same suspects and their associates, and a targeted international task force was formed. They codenamed it Operation Adriatic. That's an appropriate name. The Adriatic is the sea dividing Italy from the Balkan Peninsula. As Spanish cops kept watching the yacht and waiting, Serbian and Dutch authorities moved against the group's distribution infrastructure in May 2023, after 7 tons of cocaine were discovered. They arrested a dozen and seized weapons, and about €50 million worth of assets, including high-end cars, sniper rifles, and plastic explosives. That hints at the violence underneath the drug trade. 3 cartel leaders, all designated high-value targets, were among those arrested in Serbia, police say. 3 months later, the yacht that Spanish police had been patiently watching finally made its move. It headed out to an isolated part of the Atlantic, and on its way back to the Canary Islands it was intercepted on August 2nd, 2023. It was stuffed with 700 kilos of cocaine from Brazil. 2 Italians linked to the Mafia found on board were arrested, as were 2 men on shore, a Serbian and a Croatian linked to the Balkan Cartel. Police seized their phones. Investigators say that helped crack the group's operational method, but also much more. It revealed their financiers, coordinators, and brokers behind their shipments. In October 2023, a joint German and Croatian investigation took its turn to hit the cartel, arresting operatives accused of distributing cocaine in Germany using courier cars with hidden compartments. 21 people arrested were from 10 different nationalities: Croatian, Serbian, Bulgarian, North Macedonian, Montenegrin, Russian, Austrian, Iraqi, Moroccan, and German. The senior leadership, though, Europol complained, had taken refuge in Turkey and Dubai. Weeks later, in November 2023, the Turks came to the table in a pretty big way. They nabbed a man in Istanbul, alleged to be one of the network's main bosses, Nenad Petrak, a Croatian, wanted on an Interpol Red Notice and described as a ringleader in the Western Balkan Cartel with operations in 9 countries. While he was in Turkey, Petrak had bought his way to Turkish citizenship under a new name the year before. He has since been extradited to Croatia and is awaiting trial. The very next day, another arrest picked off another Croatian in Istanbul, named Christian Palic, alleged to be the immense global broker identified after the 2020 interception of the coke boat. He was arrested just 5 miles from where Petrak was pinched. Palic had not been in his homeland for decades. He'd allegedly been too busy networking abroad, including with Brazil's PCC, to secure a reliable supply. His contacts became so important that gangs fought over him. He allegedly was kidnapped in Brazil by people demanding his attention, and the PCC paid a ransom for his release. Police attention flicked across the Atlantic to the drug's source. In Brazil, the federal police were also tracking the gangsters. At least 2 shipments of cocaine, one of 700 kilos hidden in metal bins, and another 800 kilos on a towing ship were found there, and a transportation network was busted that was hauling the cocaine by land to seaports in Brazil. They then traced the cash. They named their probe in English, Operation Follow the Money. They uncovered logistical services and money laundering activities, including 500 bank accounts that moved hundreds of millions of dollars. Here's an officer digging out $3 million in cash found hidden behind a false wall. In March, at least 2 main people were arrested there, including a businessman. The final phase of the operation came this month. It started with Spanish police, and it ended in Spain. There were 4 more arrests and another 7 houses searched in Malaga and Tenerife, with assets seized, jewelry, watches, there's always watches these days, a gun and ammunition, cash, some electrical devices, and some other items. There are, however, another 18 arrest warrants for those who have escaped the dragnet. No doubt everyone in the business is now looking for ways to fill the void, because surely we know they aren't going to stop. Please tap the thanks button to send me a tip, and give this video a like and comment below. That helps juice the algorithm, and please make sure that you're subscribed. Thanks for watching till the end.